today we have a very special guest. Her name is Melissa Landa, and she is organizer of a rally that is going to take place this coming Sunday in Washington, D.C., in front of the Capitol on the west side. And it's going to bring people from different cities, New York, Pennsylvania, Carolina, Virginia, different states. And they're going to be there in order to protest the rising tide of anti-Semitism in the United States. And Melissa is the organizer of these people. I thank you, Melissa, for finding time to speak to us because I know you're very, very busy now. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Melissa, you're actually becoming, a leader of Jewish people. There are rabbis and there's community people who organize different social services and everything else. But you actually politically active leader of the Jewish people. Why? How did it come about? What happened?
Well, I run an organization. It's a grassroots organization called Alliance for Israel. And one of the things that we do is we have what we call regional response teams, where people all over the country take it upon themselves to notify me when they experience or hear about anti-Semitic incidents, largely dealing with attacks on Israel. They notify me, and we address these incidents, whether they're online or in person. And they share with me their stories and their concerns. And there has been an increase, as we all know, a rapid increase, a sharp increase in Jew hatred, attacks on Jews, and a rapid increase in anxiety and frustration and anger in the Jewish community, and a feeling that there has not been a commensurate response from our elected officials and from other leaders. And that there's been a sort of passivity to these attacks. And so it just became evident to me that something needed to be done. That was my sense. And then after the attacks on Israel during the war with Hamas, it just escalated to such a degree that I felt that it couldn't wait any longer.
So this is simply a result of your personal feeling that this could continue no longer like this, right?
That's how it initially started. Once I began to make plans along with somebody named Paula Bienfeld and somebody else named Lauren Law, the three of us began to make initial plans. I was contacted by Elisha Wiesel, who is Elie Wiesel's son. And he felt that he shared my concerns and he shared my viewpoint, also feeling that Jews are always coming to the aid of others who are in need, and that Jews have largely remained silent in the face of rising anti-Semitism. And he felt that he wanted to join in this effort. And so he has been a remarkable partner. The two of us have been working together, co-organizing this rally. And so it's been a joint effort.
Very interesting, because from my reading of Jewish history, Jews have been always very poor responders to attacks in societies where they lived.
Yes.
So
yes.
What is the difference? I mean, like, for example, if I ask some rabbi, are you taking your congregation to a rally to protest? The answer probably is going to be no.
This time around, it's very different. There has been an astounding positive response. We have communities coming from actually all over the country. We have been notified by people.
Why not from Chicago? I mean, this is how we connected. Why not Chicago? I wanted to go, but there was.
Yes, I don't know for a fact that people are not coming from Chicago. People have not responded to our offer of charter buses from Chicago. People may be coming on their own volition. We just don't know. But people are coming from all over the country. And communities are coming from Milwaukee.
How many people do you expect there?
We are hesitant to make a prediction, to be honest with you, because a lot of people are choosing not to register for various reasons. There will definitely be in the thousands, but we just don't know how many.
Well, we would like to see some report about it because we'd like to promote it. I have to say, that this non-response on the part of many Jewish organizations, not visible response, the one that you offer now, I think is one of the big problems with the Jews in this country.
We are being inundated with requests by Jewish organizations and allies, in fact, who are asking to co-sponsor the event. Large and small from all over the country.
Very good. This is very promising, and I'm very glad to hear that. In any case, so you're going to be gathering in front of the Capitol building, right?
Correct. Correct.
What is the goal of this rally?
Well, one of the things that we're going to do actually, well, first of all, let me back up. We want to be seen and heard. We are gathering in front of the Capitol, not randomly. That was not a random selection. We want Congress to see and hear us. Granted, it's on a Sunday, but we expect the press to be there. And we are making a statement to our elected officials that we expect them to take action, that we do not accept the anti-Semitism that's being perpetrated against us, and we expect them to take action against it. We want laws to be passed, and we want it to be stopped. And we want perpetrators of anti-Semitism to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. One of the things we're going to do during the rally is we are going to have people take out their phones and to send messages to their elected officials. Republicans are going to send messages to their Republican officials, and Democrats are going to send messages to their Democrat officials. We want people to acknowledge that this is happening on both sides of the aisle. This is not a partisan issue, and we don't want it to be presented as a partisan issue. We want it to be addressed on both sides.
Very interesting, because my representative here from Illinois is Jen Shakovsky. I sent her a number of messages, and I just got standard response, and she has done nothing other than supporting what I consider to be anti-Semitic members of Congress.
Right, and we see it going on both sides, and we feel that by our presence in the thousands right there in the nation's capital, in front of the Capitol building, they will not be able to ignore us any longer.
What is interesting about your organization called Alliance for Israel is that you have, it seems like you have many people supporting your organization, your goals, who might not be expected normally to support. For example, a guy that you call Palestinian Israeli. There's also a guy from Black Institute to Support Israel.
That's right.
And a number of other people that normally
you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Yes. We believe that the diversity both of Israel and of the Jewish people and of our allies is something that needs to be exposed and promoted, that it's very important for people to understand that Israel is a diverse, multi-ethnic society, the Jewish people are diverse, and our allies are diverse, and that's important for people to understand, because one of the greatest lies and myths that's being promulgated is that Israel is a European colonized society, and that is an absolute falsehood, and that Jews are white. That is an absolute falsehood. So we focus on the diversity of all those groups, and that's something that we
and you think it will produce some results?
Yes, absolutely. And we think that there's going to be many allies at our rally as well, not just Jews.
Melissa, you were born in South Africa, right?
I was, yes.
I'm not asking what year, but it's an interesting it's interesting
Right,
place.
because I won't tell you.
Right. So it's an interesting place to be born, and I understand that you were teaching their courses about music as a form of social protest.
I taught that at the University of Maryland about South Africa.
Not in South Africa, right?
No, I've delivered lectures in South Africa, but I was teaching that course at the University of Maryland.
Very interesting. Now, many people compare Israel to South Africa, which is just absolutely astonishing to anybody who has any brains. But I guess you do not need to have brains in order to be viciously anti-Semitic.
It's utter and complete nonsense. There is not even a remote similarity between Israel and apartheid South Africa.
What about all these organizations, that here now in the United States demand racial justice and all kinds of different equality, and I don't hear them demanding, the brotherhood, all-American brotherhood in the United States, but they do demand equality, whatever that means, and they demand justice. And justice, of course, the way they see it, I do not necessarily share their definition of justice. But what about many other organizations that do work for justice in this country? Do they come to Washington with you too?
We are still waiting to hear from a lot of organizations that not all of them have gotten back to us, but we are expecting a positive response. Yes.
Well, I would be very happy to hear about it. And
we will, yeah.
If you're going to be able to do, what is the ideological platform on the basis of which you bring all those people and organizations in order to support Israel?
What do you mean?
Well, the intersectionalism is the foundation of anti-Israelism.
Well,
but what about your ideological framework? How do you, for example, approach the guy Palestinian Israeli, or a guy who supports Black Lives Matter movement? How do you bring them to support you?
Well, are you talking about the rally now? Because the rally is focusing on anti-Semitism. The rally is not focusing on Israel per se, it's focusing on anti-Semitism in the United States. So that's the focus of the rally.
That would be fine. But for me, Israel, or defense of Israel, the right of Israel to exist,
yes,
and the security of Israel as a Jewish state,
yes,
me,
sure,
is part and parcel of what
yes,
interests me as a Jew.
Absolutely. And we, on our flyer, we have the Israeli flag and the American flag, because we believe that half the Jewish people live in Israel, and our brothers and sisters who live in Israel are subjected to anti-Semitism and attacks, and we are not forgetting them. And we also believe that many, I don't know if most, but many anti-Semitic attacks in the United States are disguised as anti-Zionism, and that anti-Zionism qualifies as anti-Semitism. So there's no doubt about that. Any organization or any person who does not accept the fact that Israel should and does exist as a Jewish state is not welcome at the rally.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But some organizations that do come to support you at the rally, what is their motivation?
They believe that anti-Semitism is a blight on our society.
So their defense or their attitude toward Israel is molded by their rejection of anti-Semitism as
Correct.
the norm.
And they also all believe that Israel should and does exist as a Jewish state.
This is very interesting because, as I said, the intersectionalism, which now spread throughout big portion of American, I do not want to call elite, but American thinking, occupationally thinking people, in my mind, he has its very core anti-Semitism as uniting element. So to counteract it, we need some other idea which would allow other people to come to our aid. Because right now I do not see such idea.
Right.
There was at one time, America was always pro-Israel and in many ways pro-Jewish country in one way or another.
That's right.
But it's because America at its founding was visualized itself as a new Israel.
Right.
And then there was competition with the Soviet Union. So, and using Jews, Soviet Jews, or oppression of Jews in the Soviet Union as a club in fighting, ideological club fighting Soviet Union, was an important issue for America. That's why America was on the side of the Jews. But now Soviet Union disappeared. It's no longer an issue.
Not a cause anymore, right?
Right. And America also changed economic interests. Oil does not play the same role as it did in 70s and 80s. So now, where do those people, different segments of American society, where do we find them to come and to aid us in our defense as Jews and in defense of Israel?
I think I do believe with the rising levels of anti-Semitism and seeing Jews as being vulnerable and at risk now, I think that there is going to be a new effort to protect American Jews. I think that the concern is rising.
But what is the motivation of those non-Jews that, for motivation of Jews, at least of some Jews, is self-evident, because, I want to defend myself, my children, and my friends, relatives, etc. But what about non-Jews? What is their...
I think a lot of non-Jews have a religious motivation. I think a lot of Christians feel a religious affinity towards Jews. I think a lot of people see Israel
You're speaking
as an
mostly
ally.
about evangelicals, right?
Evangelicals, but also non-evangelicals, people who consider themselves good Christians. I think a lot of people view Israel as a strategic ally and want to protect Israel's interests because they realize that it's America's greatest ally in the Middle East and the only democracy in the Middle East. So I think a lot of people view Israel as an important ally to protect. So I think there are a lot of motivations for Americans to remain loyal to American Jews.
Okay, well, this is good. Hopefully there's going to be more people than we expect.
I hope so.
There's going to be more non-Jewish people to join
I think so.
in support and defense of us. But we also have to do a lot of things ourselves. And I think, people like you who are active in that area, that is politically active on the street, he have a lot to teach us all.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah, and I hope that it's not going to be our last conversation, and we're going to be talking maybe after your rally.
I'd be thrilled to come back after the rally. I'll let you know how it goes.
That would be fantastic.
Thank you.
Melissa, thank you very much for coming, and
My pleasure.
good luck, because your luck is our luck.
Thank you for having me.